The Forgotten God Within, Part 1 of the Inner Child That Still Runs Your Life. There's a child inside you that remembers who you really are, but you don't listen to them anymore. You buried them. You shamed them. You told them to shut up every time they cried out for love, or asked to be seen, or screamed because something felt wrong. You didn't know it then, but that child was the voice of God still untouched by the world. And now you call that voice your ego. But the ego didn't create itself. You did. You created it the first time you decided that your pain made you unworthy. You created it the first time you felt joy and someone said you were too much. You created it the first time you were punished for just being you. And from that moment on, your innocence got rewritten. Not erased, rewritten. And what you now call your identity, the overthinker, the people-pleaser, the one who plays it safe, who stays silent, who seeks revenge, who clings to lovers, who avoids mirrors, that's not who you really are. That's the survivor. That's the voice you built to live in a world that made your divinity feel shameful. That's not your ego. That's your forgotten God, wearing a mask you created to be accepted. And it's still creating your life. You didn't outgrow the child within you. You just stopped listening to them. But the child didn't leave. They just adapted. They learned what earned them love. They learned what kept people close. They learned what kept the pain away, what got the applause, what shut the bullies up, what got them food, safety, silence, protection. They learned that being real was dangerous, so they became good. They became what the world could tolerate, and in doing so, you abandoned yourself. And now, that same child is still running your life. Every relationship, every breakdown, every time you react harder than the moment deserves, that's them. Not because they're weak, but because they were never allowed to be whole. And the truth is, if you don't go back and love the part of you that wasn't loved then, you will continue to recreate the same damn lessons in your life over and over again, waiting for someone else to give you the peace you've always had access to. Here's the part no one told you. Your inner child isn't just trauma, it's template. It's the divine pattern you were born with, before fear rearranged it into something smaller. It's the God within you that never stopped whispering. It's your deepest innocence, still waiting for you to stop judging it as immature, broken, or too sensitive. You think you're healing your ego. But what if your ego was only the scar tissue around a rejected God inside you? So now I'll ask you this, brother. When you cry for love in secret, when you sabotage your own peace, when you panic over silence or rejection or someone looking at you the wrong way, who's really reacting? Is it your ego? Or is it the you who still remembers what it felt like to be untouched, to be God before guilt? This isn't about returning to childhood. This is about returning to the truth you had before the world told you it was dangerous to love that freely, to feel that deeply, to trust that wildly. Because underneath every coping mechanism is a divine design. And you can either keep dressing it in strategies, or you can finally see it. This is your invitation, to meet the inner child, not as something to fix, but as something sacred you forgot you were. You want to heal your ego. Then start with the one you left behind. They were never broken. They were just never allowed to be God. Part 2. The Voice. Beneath the Voice. How the inner child speaks through every reaction. It's not your anger. It's not your silence. It's not your panic. It's not your bad habits. It's not your trust issues, jealousy, mood swings, or fear of rejection. It's a voice you've never learned to translate. And it's been speaking your entire life. Beneath every emotional reaction, every time you blow up, shut down, ghost someone, chase validation, sabotage love, or flinch at real connection, there's a child trying to tell you something. Not the child who wants attention, the child who never got to finish their sentence. You weren't born with triggers. You inherited them the moment your body learned it was dangerous to be real. Your reactions aren't random. They are memories. Memories encoded in the nervous system from when you felt small, unseen, unloved, unsafe, ignored, manipulated, judged, ridiculed, abandoned. Your current life just presses the play button. When someone talks down to you and you snap, it's the child whose voice was ignored speaking through your volume. When someone doesn't text back and you feel sick with fear, it's the child whose worth was tied to attention, screaming to be seen. When someone compliments you and you feel uncomfortable, it's the child who learned that praise came with pressure or punishment. When you feel like you don't belong in a room, it's the child who was taught they had to earn their right to exist. You've called this overthinking. You've called this insecurity. You've called this just how I am. But what if it's not you? What if it's the unspoken grief of the one you used to be? The ego takes the blame, but the ego is just the bodyguard for the child still trapped in the memory. You think you're being dramatic. You think you're overreacting. You think you need to calm down. But the truth is, you're just translating pain through a lens of shame. You've judged your own symptoms instead of asking the one question that could change your life. What is this reaction trying to protect in me? Because if you asked it, you'd hear something that sounds a lot like a child finally being allowed to speak. We heal not by suppressing our reactions, but by decoding the message inside them. Every trigger is a flare. Every flare is a fragment. And every fragment is a part of your soul still trying to come home. You are not reacting because you are broken. You are reacting because a piece of you is still trying to prove it matters. So listen closer. Behind your control issues is a child who had no control. Behind your perfectionism is a child who thought they had to earn love. Behind your silence is a child who got in trouble every time they used their voice. Behind your need to be chosen is a child who was once left behind and blamed themselves for it. Your healing begins not when you fight the reaction, but when you hold the one who's been reacting all this time. The voice beneath the voice is sacred. It's not your enemy. It's not your flaw. It's the divine child, still speaking from within your survival pattern. And when you finally stop judging them, you stop judging yourself. And when you stop judging yourself, you stop living in punishment and start living in presence. That's when peace begins. That's when the mask starts to fall. That's when the child becomes your ally, not your saboteur. You don't need to fix your reactions. You need to love the place they come from. And when you do, the voice beneath the voice won't need to scream anymore. It will become your truth, your clarity, your compass home. Part 3. Breaking the cycle. Why you keep repeating what hurt you. You don't repeat the pain because you want it. You repeat it because it's familiar, because some part of you, the part that never got to finish the story, still believes that this time, maybe you'll finally be seen. This time, maybe you'll be loved differently. This time, maybe the ending will be rewritten. But it never is, because you're not repeating it to win. You're repeating it to wake up. You keep falling for people who don't choose you. Why? Because you never chose yourself. You keep chasing approval. Why? Because you learned early on that love had to be earned. You silence yourself in rooms that don't feel safe. Why? Because your nervous system still believes the child in you is on trial. You play small, wait your turn, over-apologize, overgive, hold back, shut down, lash out. Not because you're broken, but because you were trained by trauma to survive this way. The cycle isn't punishment. It's the echo of a wound that never got acknowledged. The mind doesn't cling to what's good. It clings to what's known. If chaos was normal, then peace feels boring. If love was conditional, then devotion feels suspicious. If you had to earn affection, then unconditional love will feel fake. And so, without realizing it, you go looking for the hurt again. Not because you like pain, but because pain feels like home. And until you realize that, you'll keep picking partners, situations, and roles that replay the script you were handed, all while calling it destiny. But brother, let me ask you something no one ever has. Who taught you what love was supposed to feel like? Who taught you what you had to be to receive it? And how old were you when you decided it was better to be accepted than to be you? Because right there, that's where the cycle began. And until you meet that moment head-on, not with shame, but with sacred understanding, you'll unconsciously bend yourself into the same pattern, hoping for a different outcome. Here's the hard truth. What's unhealed in you will keep writing your story. And not because you're weak, but because some part of your soul is still waiting for love to come back and redeem the moment it left. You've waited long enough. Cycles don't break by force. They break by seeing. They break the moment you stop calling it your personality and start calling it what it really is. A divine pattern stuck in survival mode. They break when you stop looking for new people to save you from the same old feeling. They break when you stop blaming your partners, your parents, your job, your body, and finally ask, what part of me is still trying to heal through repetition? Because repetition is not failure. It's a message. It says, hey, you haven't listened yet. Hey, you're still living from the wound. Hey, you still think love has to be earned, peace has to be paid for, and safety has to come from outside you. But it doesn't. And it never did. You don't need closure. You need clarity. You don't need them to say sorry. You need to forgive the version of you that thought you had to become someone else, to be loved. And brother, you don't need to repeat the pattern one more time to finally get it. You just got it. Right now. You were never here to keep proving you're lovable. You were here to remember it. And remembering doesn't come with applause. It comes with tears, chills, silence, and the sacred ache of realizing you don't have to go back there anymore. The cycle is over when you say it is. The child is safe when you show them they are. The pattern ends when you stop being loyal to the pain that started it. Part 4. The guardian of the wound, how the ego protects the child. You forgot your ego is not the enemy. It's the exhausted soldier standing guard over the wound no one helped you clean. the one wound you kept hidden, the one too old to cry about, too deep to name, too sacred to expose, the one your inner child was too afraid to show again, because the last time they did, the world called it weakness. So you armored up. You became smart, funny, seductive, successful, spiritual, self-reliant, mysterious, unbothered. Not because those things are who you are, but because those things kept the pain out of reach. That's the ego. It's not your arrogance. It's not your selfishness. It's not your pride or resistance to growth. It's your guardian. It's the mask you made for the world because your true face got hurt one too many times. It's the voice that speaks before the tears can. It's the clever, sharp, controlled part of you that says, "Don't worry, I've got this. They'll never hurt us again." And the truth is, you needed that voice. You needed the ego when no one else showed up. You needed it when love became performance, when trust meant betrayal, when being good meant being silent. You needed it when you were too young to know how to grieve. But now, that voice is tired. The ego is not bad. It's just been alone too long. It's been holding back floods of grief, rivers of rage, oceans of longing, all for the sake of protecting the child you left behind. The ego never wanted to take over. It just didn't trust anyone else to keep you safe. So it built a life around survival. It learned the rules. It studied the game. It became what the world rewarded. And in doing so, it buried your innocence deeper and deeper beneath strategy, logic, humor, ambition, control. But innocence doesn't die. It waits, and eventually, the ego begins to crack. You can feel it, can't you? When peace feels foreign, when love feels suspicious, when the applause doesn't heal you, when you finally have everything and still feel empty. That's the ego whispering, "I kept them alive, but I can't make them whole." Wholeness doesn't come from building more walls. It comes from laying the armor down. It comes from walking back into the fire you survived. Not to suffer, but to retrieve the part of you that never stopped waiting for you. And that's when the ego starts to soften. Because the moment you show up for the child within is the moment the ego finally feels safe to let go. The ego isn't your villain. It's your trauma's translator. It speaks in defense because the child wasn't allowed to speak in truth. It criticizes others because the child was over-criticized. It pushes people away because the child was once left behind. It clings to control because the child had none. The ego is not trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect the only life it knows how to keep safe. And it will keep doing it until you show the child it doesn't need to be hidden anymore. So now the real question becomes, can you forgive the voice that tried to keep you alive? Can you love the mask without shame? Can you honor the armor before you remove it? Can you look at every overreaction, every shutdown, every perfectionist spiral and say, "Thank you, you did your job. But I'm home now, you can rest." Because only then does the ego stop guarding the wound and start leading you back to the child who survived it. Part 5. Return to the innocent. How to reclaim the God you buried. There was a time you didn't have to earn your worth. You didn't need to look a certain way, didn't need to speak perfectly, didn't need to win love or prove your value or chase safety. There was a time you simply existed, and that was enough. That wasn't weakness. That was God. And you buried that God beneath a lifetime of judgment. They told you to grow up, to act right, to sit still, to stop being too sensitive, too loud, too quiet, Too honest. So you did. You adjusted. You conformed. You learned how to survive. But the part of you that never needed fixing, the part that cried openly, laughed freely, danced without shame, loved without strategy, that part didn't die. It got buried beneath the you had to become. And now you're here, peeling off layers that were never yours, trying to remember what it felt like before the mask. You don't want to be impressive anymore. You want to be real. You want to laugh like it means something. To love like it won't be used against you. To cry and not be labeled weak. To rest and not feel guilty. To be without apology. What you're longing for is not a better self. It's your original self. The one that came here already whole. That self is innocence. That innocence is God. Not the God they taught you to fear. Not the God that keeps score. Not the God who waits on clouds and demands perfection. The God inside you. The one who never left. The one who watched every moment you felt unworthy and whispered, "This isn't who you are." And now, you're finally ready to listen. But to return to that place, you must first confront the greatest illusion of all, that your value depends on anything outside of you. You've begged for forgiveness. You've waited for validation. You've chased healing like it was something you had to deserve. But true healing isn't a reward. It's a homecoming. And forgiveness? It's not something you wait for. It's what you give yourself when you realize the only one still punishing you is you. So let's go back. Let's go deeper than memory. Let's go to the place beneath fear, beneath shame, beneath the stories the world made you tell. Let's return to the God within, the child who knew the truth before they were taught to forget. Because that's where your power is. Not in your ego, not in your performance, not in being better than your past. Your power is in your innocence, untouched by fear, unshaken by judgment, unbought by praise. That's the part of you that's eternal, and it's time to bring it back. Your homework, return to the innocent. Find a photo of yourself as a child. Look into their eyes. Ask, what did you need that no one gave you? Then, say it out loud. Give them what they never heard. Example, you didn't deserve that. I believe you. I love you. Name one reaction or behavior you've judged harshly. Instead of punishing it, sit with it. Ask, what are you trying to protect? Listen. The answer might surprise you. Every morning for 7 days, repeat this. I do not need to become worthy. I was born whole. I return to the child within, not to relive the pain, but to remember the God I've always been. Be unapologetically gentle with yourself. Watch how the ego panics when you don't hustle for love. That's a sign the mask is slipping. Let it fall. If you feel resistance, breathe. That's the child testing if you're really safe now. Show them you are. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to reclaim yourself. Not the self you built to survive, but the self you buried to be accepted. That's the one who's worthy. That's the one who's holy. That's the one who's home. And brother, when the world sees you live from that place, it won't just change your life, it will change theirs. If this series hit home, like deep in your bones, like comment, and share it with someone still wearing the mask. This movement is real, and it's just getting started. Let me know what you want to do next, brother. We're only scratching the surface of what's possible.